Hey everyone, welcome back to Epic Cars, and I wanted to give you an update on the air intake that I installed in the last video. You can click on the banner above to go back and look at that video and see what I did. Basically, I installed a new air intake system off of the turbo into the intake manifold of the 6.5 liter diesel, and I wanted to give you a little bit of just updates of how's it been since I installed it, the driving characteristics, and some tips and tricks on if you do go about installing the system, what you should be looking out for. Alright guys, that's a close-up look of what I installed in this last video, and got it from KB Diesel Performance. Really a good product, came quickly, came with good instructions, good hardware, that kind of stuff. And I've been talking to the owner of KB Diesel Performance, Corey, the past week or so. Just a real good all-around guy, and man, I'm really glad I made a connection with him, because he's been helping me out, pointing me in the right direction regarding upgrades to the 6.5. Go check out his site, KB Diesel Performance. But basically bought this kit on Amazon. It came from KB, and installed it. Was real straightforward, as you can tell there. Pretty simple stuff. You got an intake manifold, you got a hose, you got another pipe, bend pipe right there, another silicone hose, and some clamps. No big deal. And then it goes straight into your turbo right there. The issues that I had with the system, or the setup the way it is if you'll notice that little pipe right here. This pipe is basically an emissions control pipe, but it also handles the pressure inside your engine and these diesel engines, and it allows to be able to get positive crankcase pressure onto your diesel engine. It allows the positive pressure in your engine to escape somehow. If it doesn't have a way to escape, oil starts leaking out of your engine. It could be coming out of your main seals. It could just be coming out, wherever there's an orifice in your diesel engine. And guys, that's exactly what I experienced. As I mentioned last week, when I set up this, I put this new air cleaner on, this cone air cleaner. Well, I set it up directly on the turbo, and because of that, I didn't have a place for this pipe to go into the intake system. So I basically had to cap it off right there. Well, that was a problem because then my intake pressure was not equalized, and I started driving it around, and sure enough, whenever I got out of my truck, there is oil everywhere. And I say everywhere, not like pouring out, but a lot of spots all around the bottom of my truck. And one of the great things about this truck from the very get-go was that it didn't leak oil very much. I mean, I'd find a spot here and there, no big deal. So I was really disappointed with that. And then a lot of you guys out there in the field sent me comments on, hey man, don't plug that up. That's not what that's not going to be a good thing for your engine. You're going to have oil coming out of everywhere. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And so what I did is I came back at a later date, a few days later, rigged back up the stock exhaust system, or excuse me, the stock intake system. So this basically came over here and hooked up to this air box that would normally sit right here where my hand is. I just kind of adapted it a little bit, and at first tried just this conical filter going straight into this end here, which is not quite a circular. It was more kind of an oval, but with the clamp I was able to make it work. Alright, so I switched out lenses to make this a little bit easier on you guys. Went to this wide angle lens, and guys, if you ever want to know what kind of camera equipment I use, things like that, just go to the links below. I've got it all spelled out. You can go to Amazon and click on it and buy the exact lenses and things like that I use. But so getting back to the story here, so this pipe right here, I didn't have anywhere for it to really go, so it was capped off right there. I just basically used I think it was a starter fluid cap and some duct tape. Don't do that. Go ahead and go, if you don't have a cold air intake system that has an opening to be able to create that positive pressure, then what I simply did was reuse the stock system that was already on here. Remember, I can point this out a little bit better now with this new lens. It had the air box right there and went straight into this, and then it already has that opening for that hose. So what I did was I just adapted a piece of an existing pipe that I had. It was an intake pipe off of something. I don't know. I found it in my parts bin. and I had originally used it to kind of set up the cone filter right here. Well, it just, like I said, without that orifice, or that hole going into the intake system to create that pressure, I was leaking oil everywhere. So I went ahead and put the stock system back on, and basically just used a little elbow. I had to cut the pipe, but used a little elbow and put the conical filter back over here. Now, another thing that I did was, there was a basically right where that box sits, behind it there's a little flange, and so this cold air comes in from the front of the truck and through the fender and up into the engine compartment, or it used to go into the air box. And so what I did is I took that flange off, because I was trying to get this to where it would sit, the cone filter would sit about right there, to where this cold air would be coming in straight off of that intake system out through the fender. But I just didn't have the right pieces, and it didn't have the right geometry to do that. So I'm okay with it sitting right now there. It's got, like, you can see that about 4 inches, 5 inches of space between where the air intake comes in to where the cone filter goes, and so at least it's getting some fresh air. Now on this side, I don't necessarily like how close it's sitting to the turbo, because that gets pretty hot, and so you're going to be getting some warm air in. But it's good enough for what I'm doing. I'm not producing 1,000 horsepower or something like that. I just wanted a good system that gets me down the road, increases power a little bit, maybe helps with gas mileage, and I think this setup's going to work really good, especially now that I've got the emission system and everything in the positive kind of crankcase system all put in together. Guys, I don't know exactly, I forgot what this was called again. I know 50 people have told me what this is exactly called. It was some people called it a PCV slash SDR, I don't know, something like that. One guy called it a tuna can. I guess that's kind of slang. So basically, I think it's got a one-way vent in there, if I understand it correctly. Again, not really looking for the scientific way of why it works. I can just tell you from real-world experience, real-world experience, that you do not want to plug that up, and you definitely want to have some pressure, allowing that pressure to escape from your engine block and hold all that oil inside your engine rather than coming out of other places. The overall driving impressions of putting the new intake system on, again, if you look at that past video I did some 0 to 60 times, and I do feel like it did shave about a second, maybe a second and a half off of the 0 to 60 time. I can tell you, driving around town, I don't notice it a whole bunch. I tried to do a miles per gallon test this week. It did feel like, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't feel like, it did seem like, based on my calculations, that I was getting a little bit better miles per gallon. Not a lot, and again, it was not scientific from a standpoint of whether I was just driving in city and highway and the combination thereof, and what the percentage of the combination was. What I did was just basically drive around town. I drove on the highway a few bit. I did some towing with it, and it did seem, with the calculations, that I was getting about a mile per gallon, maybe a little less than that, better than I used to. So I think overall it's a good investment. If you're looking for to basically build out the entire system on your engine, you need good, clean, smooth, cold air coming into the engine, combusting, and then obviously I put the Diamond Eye exhaust system on it to get it out, to get the exhaust system out, exhaust gases out. So overall, I feel pretty good, the fact that I've got a good intake system now, and I've got a good exhaust system. Now I'm going to start working on some other things, and I'm going to keep you in suspense. I've got a few parts on order. I'm going back and forth on a few things, so I haven't quite hit the buy button yet. But I'm going to be ramping up the power on this. The first thing I'm going to do, though, before that, is I really need to install some good gauges. Boost gauges, exhaust gas temperature gauges, those kind of things. And so I do have on order a whole new set of gauges to put on old bones. I'm going to be working on the interior on the next video, so you'll see gauges going in, you'll see my radio surround and my new radio going in, kind of creature comforts going in. The new radio I've got, if you go back and look at some of my older videos, it's one that I've had for a while, but it's got some input features to it that, first of all, it allows me to do Bluetooth. Secondly, it allows me to put a backup camera. That's one of the biggest things that I have a problem with driving this truck, is I can't see a thing. that topper in the back with no windows, plus the all three of the windows that I'm looking through, the cab window, the front of the topper, and the back of the topper are tinted. I mean, I can hardly see anything. Even at night, it's really hard to tell if there's even a car behind me. You can very just faintly see their headlights. And so backing this thing up out of a parking lot or something is, I mean, you're just kind of just, well, put it in gear and go. Hope you don't hit somebody. I mean, you got the rear view mirrors, but that doesn't help you very much. And so I am going to put a rear view camera on this at some point. I've got some towing mirrors that I'm going to be putting on. And then I'm going back and forth on the graphics, the 4x4 Chevy graphics. So here's a shot of those graphics I was telling about. I've got the original style 4x4 fender graphics that go on the dually fenders of this truck. And I'm going to kind of leave this up to you. I've been really going back and forth on, should I put the decals on? Should I not put the decals on? I'm going to put this back on you guys to help me make this decision. I'm not really sure how it's going to go, but if you guys will put down in the comment section either a yes graphics or no graphics, I'd appreciate that. And we'll just kind of see how this plays out. I don't know exactly. Don't have a lot of followers, so I don't know if this is going to make a big deal, but maybe there's going to be 2 yeses to 1 no, and you know, I put it on. But hopefully you guys get into this and have a little fun with it from a standpoint of should I or should I not put graphics on this truck. I'll show you where they're going to go. Right about there on that dually, kind of right above the wheel arch there. So on each side there'd be a 4x4 graphic. Again, I'm liking kind of just the plain look, no trim look of Old Bones, but thought it might be fun to put a graphic on it. So help me out with the graphic decision, and hopefully you're learning from my mistakes as far as the intake system and making sure that positive pressure stays on your block and you don't have oil leaking everywhere else. God bless, guys. Thank you. Keep watching Epic Cars. There's a lot more to come.